Hello and welcome to this episode of a series of conversations. Today I am talking to the fantastic and multitasking Jackie Wilson. Hiya, Jackie.
Good. Oh, hello.
Yeah.
Say good morning, good afternoon.
Yeah, I know.
Wherever you are.
We're doing a pre-record here, so this is kind of almost a cheat, isn't it? Except that it's not at all, because here we are and we're going to have a chat for half an hour or so about all things Jackie Wilson. Mm-hmm. So, aside from the famous name, which we've already chatted about, Jackie, you're a coach, but you're a coach that does tons of stuff, aren't you? Mm-hmm. And if my memory serves me correctly, she says, not admitting that she's just read it like 10 seconds ago, so of course it does, you do a lot of it with the under 18s.
Yes. I've worked with young people for about 18 years. But that started off with me becoming a yoga teacher, leaving my corporate job to go into a different world, really. And yoga teaching is where I started. And for me, the reason I did that was all about empowering kids with self-belief, because it was non-competitive, they could achieve, and we did a lot of affirmation work to really help them embody the process. And after a few years, because of my mental health was very poor. From around about 10, it kind of gradually got worse into my 20s and 30s. And I ended up going through a big transformation in myself. It's self-developing, and I started to understand myself better. And then I decided I need to do something more. There's a big story behind that, but I needed to do something more than just teach yoga. I needed to do something more to empower kids with knowledge, understanding, to get to know who they were, and that they could be just incredible. I mean, they are incredible. They're extraordinary beings. But so many young people like myself just did not realize that. And I think for me to come into that space of really embracing who I was, and to be searching and discovering all of the qualities, strengths, all those brilliant things that we have within us that we don't necessarily know and focus on, because we get so caught up in what we look like IT says we should be like, and all of this, which can cause these mental
or what we don't look like, more
health problems. Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I have daughters. They're a little bit older now. One's 24 and one's 19. But if I could have a penny for every time they didn't look like something, rather than the fact that they're two gorgeous young women. Yeah. And of course they don't see that, because that's not what society wants them to see.
No, and that really upsets me, because I've been there. I know what that's like. But to kind of flip 360 and start to see things in a different way, I just felt like I woke up, and it was like, well, I needed to know this stuff when I was younger. I really did. I needed to kind of get to know myself much better. So from that point, I started developing programs. This was before I was a coach. I worked with two coaches. I wasn't a coach, but I'd done a bit of training in counselling. So I worked with two coaches, and we developed a program around self-development for children. And we piloted that, and it was incredible. We taught them neuroscience, we taught them their qualities, all just so much that was kind of around coaching. So that was my first experience of the coaching world, and I loved it. It was just like, I just wanted more and more and more knowledge of that. And it took me a few years, to become a coach. It's literally only this year I actually became qualified as a coach. But I was evolving in that way, from my counselling ways. It wasn't feeling right for me. It was about the empowerment. And so through those programs, I kind of kept developing, kept working with people and getting those better. Obviously was doing one-to-one interventions with kids, more on the counselling side. But I started to know that is just not me anymore. So I became a coach beginning of this year. And I mean, it's just transformed everything that I do. It really has. All my work, everything that I do, I go in and do programs with kids. I do a resilience leader program, for example, in primary schools. And when I'm working with those children, it is never about me teaching them something. It's me sharing knowledge, and then making sure I'm asking the right questions to empower those kids to think, because there's such a lack of thinking in schools. It's all this, you know, teach them to the test, and that upsets me. But for me to be able to work with children and to start to coach them through whatever I'm doing with them, it's just, I don't know, it's just transformed my whole world of everything that I do, and I embody that and bring that into whatever I'm doing, whether it's my 11-year-old at home, speaking to my husband, or, you know, it comes into everyday life. And, you know, that's sort of what one of my businesses, but I also, that's Empower Education. But I also have a business called Emotions Toolkit, which is a resource. Here's the little resource, which goes in at age 3 upwards. And it's mindfulness techniques. I'm a mindfulness teacher as well, but it teaches really simple self-regulation techniques. And that goes alongside something like my Resilience Leader program, for example. So again, kids are coached to figure out what's the right thing for them, what other ideas have they got, and start to create their own self-management plan, for example, and then start to think about how they're going to teach that and share that with others in their school, their parents, their teachers. How are they going to think their way through that? So there's a lot of coaching goes into a lot of the stuff that I do.
That's really interesting about emotional management, which is basically what we're talking about for children, because children tend to be told what they're feeling.
Yes.
My background before I kind of was a coach and what have you, I was a drama teacher, but not in schools. I ran a drama program that was sort of, it happened all over the place. And the work that I found by far the most rewarding was the teenagers, because that's my favorite age group to teach.
Yeah.
The reason that I found it particularly rewarding is that because it's drama, they're having to think, and we used to do sort of debating or getting them to create pieces around something that was very controversial, and listening to them talking about how they felt, and kind of recognizing that what this sensation is this, and by naming it and acknowledging it, then they discovered that even if somebody had a completely different view to them, that they were still able to communicate, that it wasn't just breaking down into I'm right and you're wrong, and you know, you're a bastard, and all of the teenage stuff that goes on. But watching that process develop over several terms of a drama program was amazing. It was amazing. And at the time I wasn't a coach, and I didn't really know very much about coaching, but when I think about how much more could have gone into that, it's I think as a society, and increasingly really with the views of the current government, which tend to be a bit more cookie cutter, dare I say, is that thinking is being discouraged, and toe the line because we want to make nice employees is being encouraged.
Yeah, that's right. You know, but unfortunately, if you look at the top business skills that are required, you've got things dropping in like emotional intelligence came from nowhere and dropped at number 6 this year. You know, and all of those critical thinking, problem solving skills are so necessary in this innovative world that we are now living in. And it's just, there's such a mismatch. Schools, the education system, it's not the teachers because they would do it, but it's what's been put into the school curriculum. It comes from the government level, and that really is not great, because they're missing a huge trick of the potential of children and what they can do.
So what do you see emotional intelligence in children to mean?
To me, it's having this real understanding, like you said, it's really understanding and being able to work with and effectively use their emotional state to create better relationships, to be able to navigate the world easily, and being more self-aware. That is my biggest thing. If we're more self-aware, we can tune into what we're thinking, what we're feeling, like you said, the sensations. It's not just the I am feeling angry, it's what is that, where is that coming from? It's having that real embodied understanding of how we are in the world, and how we're affecting situations. I mean, there's so much to it. It's a very in-depth thing, but it's something that, you know, if you've got the right mindset, and you can be aware of how to reframe your thinking, even that sort of thing, it has a massive impact on your emotional state. And then for me, it's really understanding that no matter what, we should unconditionally see ourselves as very valuable and worthy in the world, and that isn't the case for the majority of young people.
The
Majority of people, absolutely. So there's a whole thing, but emotional intelligence, it's the understanding, the use of, the awareness of our emotional states.
So I'm really curious, because I have taught 4-year-olds drama, so we're talking, this is going to be fun. It's my least favourite age group to teach, especially I used to go into schools and do a lot of teaching, and you sort of be there at like September or October with the reception class, and you say, right, can we all stand in a circle? And the answer to that question is no, we cannot, because we have no concept of how we fit into a space with other people. And step back and say, no, they can't do that. So how do you work with children that young on something as complex as emotional management?
Well, you taught yoga to 2 and 3-year-olds since, well, 18 years I've been doing that. When I put the toolkit together, it was in mind of bringing this into the early years, because for me, early intervention and prevention is crucial if we're to have any impact on their future mental health statistics that are out there, which are horrendous and even worse now. So for me, it's about that tuning in and connecting. It's really, we've got to connect with them. We've got to be aware of the energy in the room and how they're presenting themselves as they come in to start with. I mean, before anything, you've got to notice what you're walking into. And some of them will, you know, be very heightened emotions. But for me, it's the breath. The breath is what does it. And a lot of those tools in the toolkit are mindfulness and yoga breathing techniques. And what we witness when we work with young children, and we do it actively, so it's very dramatized, you know, we put active movement into the storytelling side of working with children, because if you're going to do it that young, you can't just sit there and just do anything. You have to really know what you're doing. But yeah, so active movement and expressive, it's very dramatic, as you know, you've got to be really, you've got to have fun, you've got to sing, you've got to dance, you've got to move. That's how they learn better, from my experience.
Yes, I'd agree.
So what we do is we get active, we act out a story, but then we take a moment to be still, and we might then do a breathing technique and then use the to explore an emotional state. So we might explore, so Jack was really angry, and we'll then show that and get them, can you do that too? And then it's just like, and so he used take 5 to calm down, let's do that together, and we'll do take 5, and by the end of it, you know, small or big group of children, there is a calm that just hits you, and it really energetically hits you. There was one day we were piloting this actually, and the nursery teacher was sat there observing, and she said, what happened? Because I could actually feel the calm. Never seen anything like that before. I could feel the calm. But you see, when you get children moving and then they experience the difference between kind of a vibrant action and stillness, and you're taking them through that very mindful state, they feel it, everybody feels it, and you know that this works. They know it works because they're going through it. Yeah, so that's what I would say.
Years ago, when I was in a school doing a drama workshop, they were maybe 6 years old. Now, I used to go into schools and I'd do a workshop for every class. And invariably, teachers would come to me and say, oh, I've got some real troublemakers in this class. And I'd let me point them out. And I'd say, no, don't point them out. And I could never find them, because I was doing exactly what you're talking about. I wasn't tying them to a desk and making them hold a pencil and making them concentrate. We were doing up and active and moving around and talking and singing and all of that sort of stuff. But in one school in particular, you're talking about being able to feel a change in the room. The children were standing in a circle, and we were kind of putting together a whole group play, and they'd each got things to say, and And we were doing this thing, and I was point to one of them, and I'd say the line, and then they'd say it back to me, and then I'd point to a different one, and then we'd go back and do it again so they could remember the order it went in. And I pointed to this little girl, and the line was something like, "Oh, it's all over the floor." And I pointed to her and I said it, and the whole room froze. And I thought, I don't know what just happened then, but I'm going to pretend it hasn't happened because I'm right in the middle of this. And she sort of looked at me and she said, "Can you do that in your big voice, please?" And she went, "It's all over the floor." I said, "Brilliant." And we moved on. And afterwards I discovered she was an elective mute.
Oh, wow.
I'd never spoken in school before.
Oh my gosh.
And so the rest of the class all knew that. And that's what I felt. But she was so involved.
Wow, that's incredible.
Very quiet, but she moved her lips. So this engaging them in a process and a make-believe and a let's take yourself from there to here and then we'll go back again thing. A really deep level, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do that with my coaching as well. You know, when we're sitting with children, they can be telling a story and I could be asking them questions and coaching through it. We can just make believe. It doesn't matter how it's presented, as long as they really are involved and connected. It's that connection, isn't it, that is really important.
And engaging, getting it's back to this, I could never spot the troublemakers because it was interesting. It was interesting. And let's face it, the national curriculum isn't interesting, and you can be the best teacher in the world and it's really bloody hard to make a dry topic like grammar interesting to kids who perhaps that's not their bag.
But I think the problem is that they're labelled, and it's these labels that really get my back up, because if you're calling a child a troublemaker, you're not looking beyond that. And for me, it's about, okay, so they're finding something challenging. So that might be they've got a difficult home life. It might be that they're being bullied. It might be they're just not coping academically. They're not being able to, there's just so many things that are not looked at. And to take the time to understand that young person, I think, let's not label them. Let's call them somebody who's finding something challenging. They're trying to get a message across to us, but we're not listening.
No, active listening is a thing.
Absolutely.
I know. And listen with all of them and listen to all of the behaviour, not just the words.
Yeah. I think, if every teacher could be trained as a coach, I think the school system or the schools would be very different, because it would
be interesting if every teacher just got to experience coaching.
Yes, of course.
Because, let's face it, it's transformational.
It is.
You find coaching. I've yet to meet a coach who doesn't say, "I'm really passionate about this stuff. It changes lives," because of course our lives were changed by it.
Yeah.
And it's remarkable. So let's get back to Jackie. So you've got your emotions toolkit and you've got your empowering education. Empower education. Third thing as well.
So this stemmed from me working with a 13-year-old a few years ago, who she was the catalyst for this, who was self-harming. She tried to commit suicide twice and had gone through the child mental health service and come out worse, and her dad had lost hope. There was nothing more that he could think of, that there was no other options. My husband worked with him and obviously got to know about me. And I said to him, I'm not going to give her any therapy. It's not what she needs. It's not worked. It's not for her. What I will do is educate her and help her to understand herself. And I spent 5 sessions with her. To this day, that was 3.5 years ago. To this day, she's absolutely fine, because she got to understand herself in a way that had never been explained to her. She started to realise her worth, how she could not be affected by the way people spoke to her, like friends, teenage girls, that kind of thing. She understood that was their story, not hers. And from that point on, she got it. That was all she needed. And I thought at that time, what if he hadn't found me? What if I hadn't been right for her? But I had a network of people. So what I did was start to think, you know, something more needs to happen. And there's a long story there, but I won't go into it all. But so January last year, I came through a lot of talks, discussions through my network of wellbeing experts, professionals, people passionate about young people, the next generation. A few of us were speaking, was 3 of us that were having a discussion, and we decided that we wanted to put a festival on to bring experts together with families so that they could find them. They could find ways to be inspired, to empower themselves with knowledge, activities, ways to really grow their minds, really. And so in June last year, we had our first Positively Empowered Kids Festival, which was incredible, blew my mind, absolutely blew my mind. So you had experts in the room that are used to working by themselves, that had we have an ethos of collaboration, and they experienced an event where everybody was interested in each other. It was not, you were not there really to sell, you were there to share an activity, to showcase what you do and what you can offer. And there were free workshops, there was an open mic stage for kids just to get up and have a go. There was some kids running stalls. And so that day was very, very special. Off the back of that, we then realised that the experts didn't want to not continue contact with each other. So we started our first network in Nottingham in the October, and by December we'd become a social enterprise. We were just going to do another festival this year, but lockdown happened and that had to be postponed. So we decided, right, let's go for this. So without funding, we just put on events for families. We have now a network of 75 experts. And there is a range. There's coaches, there's career coaches, there's empowerment coaches like me, there's counsellors, there's, you know, well-being experts. There's just a whole range of people within that network, and we are there to work alongside each other to be a bigger voice, to be able to be found in a hub. So we have a family empowerment hub. We do all sorts of events. We've just finished a conscious parenting event. We're doing a teachers event next month. We've done 3 children's events throughout, you know, the lockdown and beyond. And it's just become such a powerful entity on what we're actually trying to achieve. Because if we, on the early intervention and prevention stage, you know, coaches come into that massively. If we can do something to showcase people, so we do interviews, you know, we do all sorts of things to showcase our network, to bring them together so that we can be that hub that families and schools can find. And then that means they can find ways to build their family up, to put more into their schools, to be able to make a bigger, better difference to the future of our next generation's minds and potential.
Wow. Don't know what else to say. That's bloody marvellous. That's absolutely brilliant. The bit that kind of I'm thinking while you're talking, I in my own small way, I'm a reasonably political animal, and I'm sitting here thinking, you should be the child mental health. You should be the first thing before they end up getting filtered through to psychiatrists, and psychologists, and into.
That's it.
But I mean, where I lived until recently, it was Cumbria. I know of children that were waiting 6, 7, 8 months.
Yes.
Until, you know, by which time you could have sorted them out.
Yes, absolutely. That's the whole point. You know, I saw this gap between a child with good mental health, thriving, the child that is going to that distress zone, that, you know, things are a bit tough, I'm getting worried, I'm getting really frustrated, I've got a few little anger issues. And then there's the illness. Yeah. So we want to, in this, you know, kind of very beginning of good mental health to that kind of middle-ish part, you know, if we're doing a scale, you know, that continuum, halfway up that continuum, if we can showcase that we're there, we have a free family empowerment hub, families can go on there, sign up, you've got a range of experts showcasing, sharing tips, downloadable materials, all free. Go on, go do it. Free events, all the family, for different people, and it's just so that people can have something every day of the year, you know, it's there,
I'm looking at my phone here, not because I'm being rude, but because I'm just checking that I've got that website.
positiveempoweredkids.co.uk we are.
I will make sure that that's shared with this
Thank you.
video, because that's huge. Jackie, you blow me away. Blow me away. That's just amazing. Good for you.
Thank you.
I love it when coaches get coaching as part of something else, because we can fall out of coach training school with this idea that pure coaching, in inverted commas, is somehow superior to weaving coaching into what I think of as real life situations. And of course, pure coaching is much more difficult to explain and market than something that you go, look, is your kid struggling? Because if they are, hey, look, I've got all this stuff. Oh, and in the middle of it, we use coaching, but you don't even need to know about that. It's just a tool. Coaching is a tool that we can use to empower individuals of all ages.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're even we're starting a youth network now, so we have 2 youth ambassadors who are mental health advocates already in their own rights. And what we want to do is build that network up with other young people that really care, that want to make a difference, that want to get their voices heard, because that's both of those boys are saying, we want our voices heard. Yes, of course, you need your voices heard. We want to be a platform that gives young people the voice to say, right, things need to change. How old?
Yeah.
Very open. There's no set age. We have 2 17-year-olds at the moment, one from Australia, one from Liverpool, actually. And the others, and we've got a 13-year-old, we've got, I think, 2, we just had 2 recruits yesterday, just messages and say, can we be on? But yeah, so we're trying to...
Under 25 or under 18 or?
I would probably say, yeah, under 25.
Okay.
Something like that.
For a reason. You probably...
Yeah. Youth ambassadors.
I'll your way.
Yeah, anybody that is interested, you know, we really want to bring a group together of young people that can say, right, these things need to change, and we will be their voice with them. But, you know, we don't know how to present the very best way to teenagers. Let's ask the teenagers, what do you need? How can we present it? And let's coach them through that. Let's kind of build that and empower them with the ability to get their voices out there and get seen and start to make changes. They don't need to wait until they're our age. They can do it now. And those 2 boys are pure examples of that in their own rights, with their own projects, doing keynote talk. I mean, it's just 17-year-olds, ridiculous, but it's amazing, incredible that they're just not letting age define them.
Did you say?
The website, well, it's not a website for our youth network, but Morgan Braham in Liverpool, his website, well, I think it's a website, he's on Instagram, it's the Bumblebee Project. And then Alex is a LGBTQ plus and mental health advocate, so he does one or the other or both. And he's in Melbourne in Australia, but he's a trans male that has just incredible what he's gone through with his mental health, and then has transformed into this really passionate young person that wants to change policies and go into law and speak out about it. I mean, you just, these young people blow you away.
There are some very powerful young people out there, aren't there?
Oh my gosh, yeah, we want to see them, we want to meet them.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been talking for more than 30 minutes.
Have we? I didn't think I'd manage 30.
You're fantastic. I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
If there's anything I could do to help, just let me know.
It'd be lovely.
One thing that I do have is a very large network of coaches.
Great.
Jackie, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Absolute pleasure talking to you.
You're welcome. Thank you.